A hearty welcome to Stokos' eighth and final roundtable discussion session of this season. I'm Dr. Ali Nassar, the CEO and board chairman of Stokos Australia. Building trust is hard, let alone recreating it. Would technology be capable of recreating trust? Over the coming hour, Viken Bayramyan, our keynote speaker, will be discussing recreating trust, the blockchain factor. Viken's goal is to put a scope over trust, to show that trust could be recreated, and blockchain-based voting might be one of those disruptively creative ways to do it. Viken has a degree in law and a master's degree in international business law with high honors from University of Paris 1, Panthéon-Sorbonne, Paris, France. He also has an LLM degree in US and transnational business law with high honors, summa cum laude, Suffolk University Law School, Boston, Massachusetts, USA. Viken is an accredited mediator as well as an accredited international mediator at the Center of Effective Dispute Resolution in London, England. Viken has such a rich professional background. Part of his accomplishments include being a field lawyer and technology entrepreneur. Viken is the founding partner of Field Solutions, which is a firm specialized in international trading law, trade finance, and transactions in international commodities, trading in soft and hard commodities, as well as in alternative dispute resolution, corporate structures, and much more. Not only that, but Viken is the co-founder of CryptoLabs, an entity specialized in introducing, developing, and promoting blockchain-based certification applications. In addition to all that, Viken speaks 7 different languages. That's amazing, Viken. Now that we are all eager and excited to learn more, without further ado, and joined by everyone, I welcome you, Viken.
Thank you very, very much. Hello, everybody, wherever you are, whatever heat or cold you are feeling. I hope you are comfortably installed because the bottom line is to disturb you today. So if you are ready to be disturbed, ready to hear it all the way. If you want to stay in your comfort zone, you still have time to go out. Anyway, so we're going to talk about a very specific and at the same time a very broad topic, which is recreating trust and how the blockchain factor can recreate trust. I'm going to start with a personal story. When I was a kid, I seldom heard my father stating that trust takes years to build, seconds to break, and forever to repair. I'm sure some or even several of you heard statements with similar content or context. If I can try to put words to try to describe trust, I would say trust is serious stuff. Trust is a very precious jewel. Trust is extremely fragile. And above all, trust is perception. Now, with some opposing but complementary words, trust is a feeling, but with a rationale. Trust is subjective, but needs objective foundations. The reason why I'm trying to put a scope here over trust is to try to show you the high feeling of responsibility I have today to try to establish that trust could be recreated and that the blockchain factor might be one of those, as Aline said it, disruptively creative ways to do it. Now, let me stop on recreating trust for a minute, now that we try to put some words to define it. Would you agree if I said that trust is a dynamic process? trust's raison d'etre is permanent reincarnation. Trust needs to be nurtured, maintained, secured, updated, addressed, and to use one of my favorite blockchain terminology, hodled to live up. So recreating trust is not just a statement or a nice statement or a good to hear sentence, but a solid reflection of trust's nature. If trust is not regularly recreated, trust is in danger. As all perceptions, trust, as I said, is also extremely fragile. Who has not been in a situation where he or she felt that he or she started losing trust in a system, in a concept, in a relationship, in a regime, in a process, in a person, in humanity? When you start having this feeling, you rarely, and I would say really rarely, would consider technology, set aside algorithmics or cryptography, as your immediate remedy. With all the latest developments in technology and all the fluctuations resulting from the last and ongoing corona circus, I think some of you might have started considering technology as a tentative, valid remedy to address loss of trust, or at least look at technology as one of those means to explore. Now, forget all what I said so far and imagine yourself on the brink of voting for or even against something or someone. Imagine this is your constitutional right as a citizen, or your right as a shareholder, a club, or a party member. How much would trusting the overall voting system count at that specific moment, or even way before it? Would you ask yourself, will my vote be properly counted for? Would anybody be able to access the ballots physically or electronically and manipulate data? Those are legitimate questions, after all, and some or all of them might dissuade a lot of you from voting in the first place. Statements such as, the whole thing is fraudulent, the entire system is fraudulent, or even, how can I be sure that I'm not just participating in a scam or contributing to a masquerade? Now, mingle my initial statements regarding trust to these legitimate questions, and boom, you started losing trust, and this makes you adopt a passive or even a resigned approach towards one of your major rights as a human being, as a citizen, as a shareholder, as a club or a party member, I meant voting. Now, Abraham Lincoln used to say that a ballot is stronger than a bullet. At the time where bullets were considered the most powerful way to impose an opinion, a regime, the ones having the most bullets ruled until ballots started taking over, making the ones having the most ballots rule. The illusion of democracy, some would say. All this shows the critical importance of protecting your vote, tracking it, authenticating it, owning it. The problem was, and still is, that you had and have to trust the government, the board, the administrators, that they will not be tempted by the sexy arrogance of fraud, or at least data manipulation at whatever level. You did not, could not, and cannot know the travel plan imposed upon your vote with a top-down approach. You always, somewhere deep within, suspect that the ones on the top of all this can play a dirty game. After all this somehow lengthy and hope not very boring introduction, you are legitimately asking yourself, what the heck does blockchain have to do with all this in the first place? Is this again one of those trendy moments where words like blockchain can be linked to practically everything and create a wow effect? After all, trendy does not need to be corroborated with plain facts, at least in the beginning, as long as the buzz is there. Now, I'm looking at your faces even virtually, and some of you I'm saying, what is this blockchain all about? You know, because we've been hearing about this blockchain for some time. You know, when the first white paper of Satoshi regarding the Bitcoin came out, that was in December 2009, we started the blockchain, looking at blockchain here in Geneva, my partner and myself, in February 2010. That was like 2 months or 3 months after that. And I can tell you, some of the people we were talking to, they were looking at us in a very funny way, thinking that, you know, we have been affected by some level of mental virus affecting our wisdom. But at the end of the day, time showed that blockchain is here to stay and is here to disrupt. Now, if I want you to define, if there's one thing I want you to take with you today, is those 3 words. What is blockchain? 3 simple words. The first one, the most important one, is distributed, or if you like, decentralized. The second one is public. The third one is ledger. So blockchain is a distributed public ledger. Now, let's try to go a little bit more into details. Since ancient times, ledgers have been at the heart of economic transactions, with the purpose of recording contracts, payments, buy-sell deals, or moving assets or property. The journey, which began with recording on clay tablets or papyrus, made a big leap with the invention of paper. Over the last couple of decades, computers have provided the process of record keeping and ledger maintenance with great convenience and speed. Today, with innovation, the information stored in computers is moving towards much higher forms, which is cryptographically secured, fast, and decentralized. Person or entities can take advantage of this technology in many forms, one way being through distributed ledgers. Now, what is a distributed ledger? It can be described as a ledger of any transaction maintained in decentralized form across different locations, eliminating the need, this is key, eliminating the need for a central authority to keep a check against manipulation. In this manner, a central authority is not needed to authorize or validate any transaction. Okay? How much were you able to catch here? if there is one thing you should keep in mind again from these three words, put a particular stress on distributed or decentralized, and you will know why when I go a little bit further in my presentation. There were several attempts here in Switzerland or other jurisdictions to adopt so-called electronic voting systems. And this is where you will understand why decentralized and distributed is key. After all, if one could do so many things electronically, why not voting? But there was and still is a glitch to all these trendy electronic voting solutions. When I state, so all votes, again, this is where the decentralized things are important. Classical electronic voting systems, all votes are centralized into one or maximum two servers. Whoever has access to this server, for whatever reason, could manipulate the data on that server, meaning could manipulate your votes. Okay. Let me be even more clear. When I state had access, I am not only referring to hackers here, but also to entities, persons, eventually having the legitimate right to access such a server, but not happy with the results, are tempted to manipulate the data in this server. I remember once in Lebanon, they cut the electricity just before they were trying to check the votes. Anyway, you will see here that trust is getting a serious punch. Now, remember the words of blockchain. Remember the key term, decentralized, distributed, bingo. This is where the difference is. This is the new bottom line. Distributed ledger means that the votes are no more centralized into one server, but are spread or cloned into several thousands of servers all over the galaxy. Those servers are called nodes in the blockchain language. Let's try to get a little bit further down the road. What is the most known blockchain? Bitcoin, because Bitcoin, in addition, before being a cryptocurrency, is a blockchain. Okay? For example, Bitcoin, and I see Fuad behind him, he has some Bitcoin coins, and I love it. I see that we share some passion here. Okay, Bitcoin has, for example, over 10,000 nodes. That means 10,000 servers spread all over the galaxy. Ethereum, which is the second most known blockchain, has over 8,000 nodes spread, cloned all over the galaxy. Now take those numbers and compare this to the one server we talked about to feel the difference. We are recreating trust, aren't we? We started to do that. Now, I'm going to put my lawyer's hat back. I have to make a disclaimer. I never met a professional in the IT or in the blockchain industry who could lawfully allege that a system is 100% secure. This is like the lawyer who tells you that your case is 100% winner. After 25 years in the legal profession, whenever you hear an IT engineer or a lawyer telling you that, run immediately from his office before it's too late, because you are in the illusion of some kind of certainty. I am not therefore implying that the blockchain-based voting system is 100% secure. What I'm trying to put forward here is that blockchain-based voting system is substantially more secure than the classical paper-based voting system, with all the risks of fraud, negligence, human factors, and etc. Or the classical electronic voting system with one fragile centralized server. Yes, Alim.
Question, since it's more trusted, why isn't it used?
It is used, and I will give you an example. In my company, in Cryptolex, when we have conceptualized and created Voix, which in French means voice or a vote, and which stands for Voting over Internet by Cryptolex, we started it in 2018, and so far, since 2018, over 150 major economic institutions in Switzerland used it for their general annual meetings. Okay? So, and tomorrow at 5 p.m., we are being audited by the Geneva Cantonal authorities to propose our voting system for the next votations, as we call it here in Switzerland. Just for your information, 80% of the laws in Switzerland are voted by the people, 80. This is the closest you can get to what democracy could be, in my humble opinion. There is no ideal democratic system because it's allergic to the human nature, but the closest you can get. So in any way, so I don't know if I answered your question. So it is being used, but obviously there is a huge need of education because people so far already always mix Bitcoin and blockchain, because whenever you tell them blockchain, they will think that you are going to sell them some Bitcoins, whereas this is not the aim. We don't sell Bitcoins at all in Cryptolex. We are in the underlying technology. So there's a huge educational process to put in place. And by definition, this educational process will lead to some fine tuning. Did I answer your question?
You did partially. My aim was to see why isn't it used worldwide and in like more, because we still see paper voting. We still see different types of voting systems. Since we have a solution and it recreates trust, what is standing in the face of it being used?
Perception.
And only it being used.
Perception. Change management requires time, education. People has to understand what is it that we're talking about, and you need, and Switzerland is, that's why I love this country. It's one of the best hubs to do it because the authorities here are open to enter into this kind of trials, and experience prove that we have been the pioneers in several domains. So obviously you need somebody to show that it really works on a national level or a high scale level, and then the others will always, in general, whenever we do, I'm going to give another example. When we started Cryptolex, we have created through our certification application called Entity, the first Swiss mechanical watch that I'm wearing, which is fully certified on the blockchain, meaning that each component of this watch, each phase of the fabrication of that watch is fully certified on the blockchain. It means we created the DNA of the watch, if you want. Okay. Now, obviously, when we went to some other watchmakers, what I hear, and it's the most exciting statement I hear normally, is this will never work. And this is the best compliment I receive when I introduce something new. It will never work. Okay, good. But it took us 2 years of R&D, and it is working. So this is becoming more and more trendy with the Swiss watchmakers. They want to use the blockchain technology to certify that this is authentic, that you can track the watchmaking process, that you can also confirm who's the owner. In our technology, we call that the TAO, traceability, authentication, and proof of ownership, right? And we are deploying that in several things, not only in watches, in luxury products, in pharma, in voting, in other processes where the technology can really help. So as you can see, this is all an ongoing process. It needs a lot of education, but you will always have skeptical people. But at the end of the day, being an entrepreneur, and by the way, they don't teach you to become an entrepreneur in university. It's a character. You are either born an entrepreneur or you are not an entrepreneur. And being an entrepreneur, I love to be in the first wagon of the train, so that when the train arrives to destination, I will be the first one stepping down. And if we go straight to the wall, I will be the first one getting killed. but at least with my own skin in the game. Okay? I mean, it's general. This is how we consider things, and we need people who have the possibility to put that forward. Now, if I continue with that logic, by the way, if anyone has a question, please feel free to interrupt me, because I tend to talk with passion, and some people even pay me as a lawyer to talk. So that's why there's a kind of a professional, disinformation somewhere. So whenever you have a question, feel free to interrupt at any given moment. Now, we go back to what I was trying to explain about the difference between a blockchain-based voting system and electronic-based voting system. And I told you that the electronic-based voting system is centralized, whereas blockchain is a distributed ledger technology. Now, and I made a disclaimer that this is not 100%, there is no technology which is 100% sure, but definitely it's substantially much better than any existing system that we have now. Now we have some bottom lines here we need to establish in order to put a clear spectrum about what is it that we're talking about. The first bottom line is that the entity which is calling for the vote can be a government, a parliament, a board of directors, is the one responsible to secure that the individual or the person or the company voting is entitled to vote as per the applicable laws, regulations, bylaws, charter, or articles of association. Okay? It is not the blockchain technology who can do that. Okay? Now, the second bottom line is that, this is very important, is that the identities and information regarding the voters must not be outsourced or rendered accessible to any third party, service, or platform provider for whatever reason. Privacy is key to make sure trust is nurtured, maintained, sustained, and enhanced. This is very key. So any system which outsources the possibility for a platform, even ours in CryptoLex, to have access to identities, to the identity of voters, is a no-go. You should keep this. Privacy is key. If not, this is not going to work. Now, if you consider these two bottom lines and adopt blockchain, you started recreating trust. But this is not the end of the story. But it is, since this story is a permanent, redundant beginning. As I said earlier, recreation is a dynamic process, especially when it is linked to a trust-savvy, serious issue such as voting. Therefore, you must always consider that any blockchain-based voting solution you would invent or adopt must be, there is one word you should know before you die: anti-fragile. Or now, if you never read in your life one of the best thinkers of the 21st century, who comes from the country where I was born and who lives in New York, and his name is Nassim Nicholas Taleb. If you never read The Black Swan, if you never read Fooled by Randomness, if you never read Skin in the Game, and if you never read Anti-Fragile, I would definitely recommend you to do. Nassim, and I can proudly say, we are very good friends. He's one of the most mind-blowing persons I have ever met in my life. I mean, definitely, even if you do not agree with what he is saying, whenever you're reading his book, he will disturb you, he will make you angry, he will go beyond your kind of illusions. You might just throw the book and start, insulting his intelligence, but definitely, you will definitely not stay, kind of neutral towards what he's saying. Now, how does Nassim in Anti-Fragile, Nassim Taleb, define what anti-fragility is? He says, and I'm quoting, "Anti-fragility is beyond resilience or robustness." Why? Because the resilient resists shocks and stays the same. The anti-fragile gets better. That's the whole thing in the blockchain thing. Whenever you are receiving a shock, and if you're staying the same, you're resilient, but you are not anti-fragile. As I told you since the beginning, this is a dynamic process. That means you should get better when you are receiving the shock, not stay the same. Okay? So this is the whole difference between anti-fragile and robust. And this is why I love this specific nuance that Nassim makes here. Why are we selling this? If your solution is not getting better, is not improving, is not recreated, then we are back to where all this started, fragility and illusion. Now, I don't know if we have any bankers here, but because banker is a specific gender of, it's a specific type of human race. You know, there is the humans, there is male, female, and then you have bankers. Anyway, so you have to always listen to a banker asking you, for example, to buy a stock, if this banker owns that stock. Because this banker is ready to face the same shock you will have when the stock collapses. Meaning, if the banker tells you, for example, buy Apple stocks, and the first question you should ask the banker is, do you own Apple stocks? If the answer is no, then don't buy Apple stocks, because the banker has zero skin in the game in what he or she is telling you, right? My law firm's name is Field Solutions. The problem with desk lawyers is that they write opinions. When you write a legal opinion, you have zero skin in the game. If something goes bad, you will say, I gave you my academic opinion, enjoy the ride. So that's why the motto of my firm is beyond opinion to solution. That means as a lawyer, you should put your skin in the game whenever you are proposing a solution. Now, let's go back to the thing here we're talking about. Why I gave this example? Because if you have a blockchain-based, solution provider, your provider should have his or her own skin in the game, meaning he or she should be evolving, proactive, dynamic, field-orientated, and not a fairy tale seller. If you are the inceptor of your own solution, you should apply first and foremost this approach upon you. Now, I think I have spoken too much and I will conclude. As Steve Jobs used to say, what I'm trying to tell you here is not to think outside the box, but I'm asking you to throw the box away. So there will be no box, basically. You define the horizon. And I will finish with this great quote of a philosopher who went beyond good and evil, who changed my life when I was 15, who made me learn German even if I do not really like this language, and who made me consider that living in danger is the most exquisite pleasure in this trip called life. This philosopher is Nietzsche. And Nietzsche said, and in one sentence, if I had just to make this presentation with this sentence, it will be enough. He said, quote unquote, it is not doubt, but certainty that drives you mad. So stay skeptical. Thank you very much.
Again, wonderful. A lot that I personally have learned, and I'm certain a lot of the participants learned a lot as well. Since we already have a raised hand from Fuad, let's just dive into comments, questions, and discussion.
Sure.
Yes. First of all, Mr. Vikan, thank you very much for this mind-challenging and conceptually disruptive presentation using blockchain technology for voting. That surely never crossed my mind. I mean, I've been interested and involved in the cryptocurrency world and the blockchain technology behind it since 2014, using that technology for voting never even crossed my mind. My question is the following. You mentioned that as soon as we mention even the term blockchain, people will immediately think that we are either trying to market or to sell bitcoins. And you can't blame them. They're no experts in the field. And the vast majority of people are yet to trust this cryptocurrency technology, the concept of, blockchain technology. Not everyone is math savvy, because it's algorithms, and one thinks immediately of mathematics and the application of advanced mathematics. So the majority of people are yet to trust even the concept of cryptocurrency, which is the popular manifestation or application of the blockchain technology for many reasons. Particularly, and this is not my opinion, but this is what I read online, what I hear on the news, what I hear from people I know. Oh, look at the prices, the price of Bitcoin. It fluctuates like crazy. How can this be really decentralized? This cannot be based on purely supply and demand. This is what people say, whether they're right or wrong. Now, with so little trust in anything that has to do with, or anything that has the label blockchain on it, how can you really expect to get the approval of people or politicians to use such technology in something as sensitive as voting or elections? If they don't trust, say, the most obvious or the most popular application of this technology, the cryptocurrency, immediately, they will think, oh, just like the price of again, this is in their minds, just like the price of Bitcoins fluctuates in an abnormal way, according to them, we cannot use this technology for elections. Surely there's something wrong with this whole technology. So how would you say you can make these people at least have a second thought about it? Sorry for the long question. I wanted to make sure that my idea is.
You are absolutely right in your analysis. Second, first, the most important thing is you have to clearly separate cryptocurrencies from the blockchain technology. Okay? Because this is the first educational step that you have to take. Whenever you are talking to the government or to anybody about the technology, you have to say cryptocurrency is one of the obviously most known, but one of the illustrations of what blockchain technology can do. This is the first thing you should do. The second thing is you should focus on the horizontality, on the community logic of what blockchain is. The way with the 3 words that I have talked about. You should not go into the details of algorithmics, cryptography, because you will lose the audience. You should make it simple. As Da Vinci said, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Simple, use simple words, simple way of presenting it. Third, and most importantly, you should show real life examples. As I said, when we started here, okay, with our voting solution, something like 2 years ago, our first rabbit in the laboratory was the Geneva Chamber of Commerce. Okay, they said the Geneva Chamber, why? Because they are crazy, and I love their craziness. You see, this is how you make history, my friend. Instead of just sitting there and criticizing, okay, instead of they are making history. So this is they took all the risk, huh? So skin in the game all the way, okay, and it worked. So now when we are going to the government, we have over 100 examples of successful, big, general meetings. We're not talking theory here anymore. We're talking about real life examples. And this is why we approached the authorities only now. If we approached them 2 years ago, the authorities or the government will not accept to be the rabbit in the lab. But after all this experiences, real life examples, real life cases, they kind of understood, wow, this definitely is, worth looking at. And this is what we are capitalizing on. I'm not saying it's an easy trip, Fuad. It's going to be a very, very difficult one. But unfortunately, we love difficulty. More complex it is, more it makes us accept the challenge. So, and because we love Switzerland and the way people think here, and and this open-minded approach towards technologies, and this is where we believe that in the next maybe 1 or 2 years, you will hear about our voting solution being used in local and national elections and votings. This is what we're aiming for.
So I'm just curious, how are you able to convince the Geneva Chamber of Commerce to actually use blockchain technology for their voting system?
It took us 15 minutes. 15. We
this
just
is the Geneva Chamber of Commerce you're talking about.
I know what I'm talking about. And if you go to our website, cryptolex.ch, you will see the testimonial of the Geneva Chamber of Commerce director telling how happy he was with the solution. And by the way, they use it again this year. So all the entities who used our voting solution last year are using it again this year, okay? And the beauty of it is that the people who voted, okay, we're talking about thousands of people who voted, the majority of them had no clue about what blockchain is all about and didn't even know how to use a computer, some of them. We have elderly people and we just told them, sit down, we gave them a smartphone or even, or a computer or an iPad or whatever, and they voted. Because why? Because the solution is simple, It's like when I draft contracts as a lawyer, I give it to my 10-year-old son. If he's unable to understand it, that means my contract worth nothing. That means if you really want to benchmark what you're doing, you have to get away from this, scientific bullshit knowledge, words, terminology. Simple. The theory of the 3S, right? Simple, sexy, and stupid. That's what you have to make it. If you are not able to do the 3S, do something else. Become a professor in the university or write a book. But don't do what I'm doing. That's for sure.
Thank you.
Again, thank you, Fuad, for your question. Thank you, Viken, for answering it. Because I wanted to comment.
Sure.
My specialization is leadership, and I saw a lot of cross-industry knowledge in what you just said, and I believe we learn a lot from other industries, and it was very insightful, all the examples you gave, and I have to agree 110% with you that simplicity is the key. It's the way to introducing technology and new practices. We don't necessarily like change as human beings, although we say, I don't mind change, I love challenges, but that's all talk. When it comes to reality, we just unconsciously and a lot of the times consciously resist change because what we have is our comfort zone. We know what we're doing inside out. So why learn something new? Why change the way we do things since it's working anyway? And this is how it becomes tougher on entrepreneurs like you to introduce new technology, new features, new solutions, etc. And that is not only in your industry, that applies to all our industries. Like we have Muhammad in hospitality, we have Lucille, healthcare, John, Pedros, Fuad, Aline, and Zena in education. So I do agree, and I would like to stress on this, and this is why I'm commenting. Simplicity. The people need to know that it's easy, fall in love with it, and then come compliance.
Absolutely.
So beautiful comment. Thank you, Biken. Any other questions or comments from the audience? Are you raising hand, Fuad? You are? Please go
Yes,
ahead.
but maybe someone else has a question. Let them ask. I'll leave my question to the very end.
I don't see any other raised hands, so please go ahead.
That means I was so boring for the others, and the only person I have triggered interest in is Fuad in this case. That's all.
No, because as I told you, my interest and involvement in the cryptocurrency world is what, 7 years old now. So
Good. You're one of the early pioneers, as we congratulations.
thank you.
Okay, Fuad, please go ahead.
So based on, again, this concept you introduced today, using blockchain technology for voting and for elections. In addition to my education background, that is working as an educator, I also have an MBA, and I worked in finance and finance for the public sector for 7 years in Abu Dhabi. From a business perspective, based on what you are saying, because I assume some, if not all of those who are attending, would also would like to know how we can monetize this. I know for sure that this is one of the pillars of the future in almost all of our aspects, all of our life's aspects. Blockchain technology, not just for transactions, but for elections and so on. I know you're a lawyer, but you're also into you're a finance lawyer, sort of. Well, I don't know if the term is correct.
I'm a field lawyer. I love this word. Check this out.
A field lawyer.
Not
A field lawyer.
Somebody who acts. Yes, continue, please.
Okay. So, what advice would you give regarding someone who might be thinking of investing in the blockchain technology, whether it's cryptocurrency or any other application of the blockchain technology? Is it worth it?
Definitely. The cryptocurrency, it's a speculative instrument. Okay?
Yes.
All right. So if you like speculation, for example, the Bitcoins I bought, I will never sell them. This is for the next generation. This is for my children.
Sure.
If it's going to worth $1 or $1 million, I don't care. But blockchain technology, definitely. What you have to do is to understand not the math of the blockchain technology, but to understand the philosophy, the horizontality I talked about, the community I talked about in the blockchain, the TAO, the traceability, authentication, and ownership I talked about, and see how you can apply it in real life examples. You know, even for example, in education, I mean, I'm not an educator, but you have to look, and this is how we do it. You know, to quote Nassim, it's not a top-down approach. Don't expect the government to do anything about it. Governments are not made to think. Governments are made to regulate, okay? Or at least to give you the illusion to regulate, all right? Which is not the same thing. So it's a perception issue. There's no reality there. It's just a perception to give you the illusion that you are regulating. So don't count on the government to do it. And don't count on others. Put your own skin in the game, okay? And it can be a very simple example of your real life that you are living. Okay, and try to marry how the blockchain technology can find a solution to that. For example, in your own domain, Fuad, in education, I don't know how you can do it, but think about it. I feel that you understood the philosophy of what blockchain technology is all about. And this is very good. And so try to take that the blockchain technology philosophy that you understood and integrate it into a real life example close to your business. And this applies to all audience, right? I see that some of you are in the medical field. For example, one of our targets in our certification application is pills and medication. Out of 10 pills in the world is fake. 1 out of 10. That's the WHO statistics. 1 out of 10. That means 10% of the medication you're taking might be fake. So think about it. Next time you're taking a medication. I don't take any medication, allergic to all kinds of medication anyway. I mean, I prefer to die just straightforward without passing by the hospital phase. But if God is listening, I hope he will record what I'm asking for on the blockchain, all right? And so, but 1 of 10. So think about the traceability and the authentication you need in the pills or in the pharma industry. I mean, imagine, this is a huge potential. That's why look at it from that perspective and apply it on your real life examples. This is what I would say. And don't be afraid of being an entrepreneur. Even if, you know, I believe that every country should have a day to commemorate the entrepreneurs who failed. Okay? Because if the entrepreneurs who failed did not exist, we wouldn't be here. Those are like the soldiers who died for their country. All right? So this is where the difference is, because they have their own skin in the game.
Thank you, Viken. One more thing about you, other than the whatever I said in the intro, you're such a genuine person. You're so fun to listen to. I am, if you allow me, going to read some of the feedback that came in the chat. Hamad Susan has commented, in fact, it's interesting, but a very new subject to me. Marsh said, same here, it's the first time I've heard of blockchain. I'll definitely be learning more and look for the book of Anti-Fragile.
Very good.
Zaina Abi Musleh agrees, same here, very new and interesting, thank you. And Elsie Daboul says, very interesting topic. So you have gained people's interest in the topic because you really have addressed it simply, and that is one of your advices, to go simple. Aline Nassim commented, I'm actually thinking how this could be incorporated into the field of education. It's a very interesting topic, but since it's not my domain, I find it hard to comprehend all what was said. I would love to get the basic knowledge about it. I think you've addressed a bit of this now in response to Fuad's last comment. John says, I'm sure that Mr. Fuad will find a way to integrate blockchain within education. He is a great innovative educator. Yeah, Lucille from healthcare. She says a way to integrate that in healthcare with a question mark, like how could this be integrated in healthcare? The pharma industry is one example that you have just shared, but she also continues, we have so many issues with privacy and security, and this is absolutely true about healthcare, confidentiality, private patient information, reports, results of exams, and medical records. So would you like to speak to that, Viken?
Yeah, I mean, there is one specific also thing about blockchain that I forgot to mention, which is whenever you write something on any blockchain, you can no more modify it. Okay, which is not the case with a centralized server, for example, in the manipulation. That's why the blockchain-based voting system is much better than an electronic one. Now, if we apply that to healthcare, if you need proper track records and you want to make sure that nobody can manipulate them for whatever reason, either by hacking them or by modifying its content, then definitely blockchainize those data. It's a very easy process. Believe me, I'm a lawyer with a very, my degree in mathematics was Siberian. That means below zero. Okay. So and imagine that I was able to understand it. So you guys are 10 times more intelligent than I am. So definitely take that logic that I told you about. You cannot modify it. You can track it, and etc. And see how you can put that on your healthcare data. And it would be a great adventure. And if you need us to think that with you, feel free to contact us. We are entrepreneurs. Whenever we can deploy our solution in any industry, we are ready to take it in, even the most complex one. And especially.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm done. I'm sorry. Please.
One last comment before we formally thank you, Viken, for a beautiful presentation is from Ali Al-Hakim. Ali says, interesting topic. I knew blockchain from cryptocurrency, but I need more information to understand it better. So, yeah, Muhammad says, thank you, Dr. Alina, for the amazing Viken. Hoping to hear from him more often. Fantastic, interesting, knowledgeable as always. So I was going to probably suggest, if Viken, you would like to send some more information to us, to Stokos, given the feedback and the requests of the different requests of the audience, and then we can forward the information to the participants in the session, probably just trying to accommodate a bit the education sector, healthcare sector, etc. Just a bit of advice or how they use it. Before we thank you, I think we have Aline who would like to ask a question. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Viken, for this presentation. Really, it was very new to me. Very intriguing, actually, but as Dr. Aline has just suggested, we are all mostly visual learners. So make us see it, let us experiment it, and we will learn it.
Good. Then, you are visual, but I start with the heart, then go to the brain, and then reach the eye. So today, I hope I was able to enter from the heart to the brain. Next session, we might do it visual. But if I did it visual immediately, you would, believe me, and I know by experience, in this technology, you would get lost. And would say, well, I don't know, what are you talking about? If you understood the 3 words I told you about blockchain, I think it's enough. If, the distributed ledger technology. But thank you. Not taken.
Still not completely and fully comprehended, but I'll get to it.
Yeah, look, if you start, you have to go, in Italian, we say che va piano, va sano, va lontano. If you go slowly, you reach very far and you safely. So it's a question of process. If today you already opened the first door, you're going in the right direction.
True. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Viken, you've asked if you were successful in reaching the heart. I have to confirm that you have. Thank you so much. Deeply appreciate the wonderful presentation you put together. Certainly learned a lot, and I know participants have given their feedback. It was an absolutely insightful session. Thank you very much. And once you send the information through, we will send it on to the participants.
I will do that. I will do that. And I would like to thank you all, and thank you, Dr. Aline, for this opportunity given to me to present the kind of a new, disruptive, creative, the way you want to call it, topic. And I hope I was not boring to anybody, because one of the biggest allergies I had when I was at school is to have somebody telling me what he knows instead of telling me how to do it. So I hope the how to do it is more important about knowledge. Knowledge today is not a value-added commodity. How to do it is the value-added commodity. Strategic thinking is the commodity. Knowledge doesn't bring any value added. So I hope I gave you some insight on that purpose, and you could apply it. And feel free to reach out if I can be of any help to put things together.